welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli, that's Bud Elliott, that's Danny Kanell. I'm Chip Patterson, coming to you live at youtube.com/cover3 and everywhere you get your podcasts on demand. Thanks for hanging out. Smash that subscribe, smash that like, and come and join us in the chat, a.k.a. the Cover 3 tailgate, where they are celebrating because, as living rent-free in UT mentions, all right, so he said this is Danny Kanell's first reaction show. It's not.
No.
It's not.
Been here, done that. Been here, done that.
We do have Danny Kanell joining us for this instant reaction show. Currently, officially, we are at the 2-minute timeout. Penn State has a 31-14 lead against Boise State. And as Bud Elliott mentioned, an attendee of the world-famous Cheez-It Bowl earlier this day, if Boise State does come back, an all-time Cover 3 podcast. You know, if Boise State comes back to win this game or even threaten an all-time live reaction. But what I've seen, Danny, what I've seen so far does not suggest that Boise State is going to come storming back.
No, I thought this was a fun game, though. Finally, we got a good one. And I know the score. I know Penn State covered, and I think most of us were on that, in agreement on that one. But I thought Boise State showed they can hang. I thought it was pretty, they have nothing to be ashamed of. I do think the outcome might have been different if Penn State was healthy for the entire 60 minutes. I think they missed Abdul Carter greatly throughout a majority of the game. But I thought Ashton Jeanty showcased pretty well. I know some people in the chat are like, he didn't look that great. I mean, he's doing a lot on his own. I thought he played pretty well. He's pretty tough. He ran hard. But I thought it's a game that the better team won. I think it could have gotten a little bit uglier, but I thought Boise State represented themselves well, and I thought Penn State looked pretty good. I think they were trying to, they were trying to take some shots. We were in the group chat, and I was saying, run the ball. It didn't seem like Boise State was going to slow them down running the ball, but they were like, nah, we're going to open this thing up and cut it loose. It's a pretty strong performance from Penn State.
Yeah, I think if you're looking to kick the group of 5 out, this is not the game to do it.
No.
They hung decently. Penn State was the better team, but they didn't look like they just didn't belong on the same field. In fact, they first quarter, they cover down on both the trick plays. All right. You get a strip sack on Drew Aller, and you're down 14-0 because Aller, you forced him to make very difficult throws, and he threw 2 absolute dimes on you. That's just more tip your cap to Penn State there. And then Penn State couldn't keep that level of play going. I thought Boise did some nice things to sort of still load up against the run because Penn State was moving them early. But they just, to me, they did a great job of grabbing all your leakers and your crossers off the boot stuff. And it just they couldn't get out into the routes. And that to me was good. And then Penn State couldn't win some of the one-on-ones on the outside. Maybe if they won early in the game. It was a nice plan by Boise, I thought, overall, except for Spencer Danielson deciding to kick the field goal in the first quarter. That is soft as shit, man. You are a 12-point underdog. That to me was an absolute. I can't do that hand signal. That was a total pucker by a new head coach. The middle finger grabs in.
Yeah.
Total pucker moment by the defensive head coach. Hey, let's get some points and rely on the defense here. That's not going to work.
There's only one reason this last minute and 7 is interesting.
Yeah, it's the cover and the total.
Yes, exactly.
Total, right? 53.5.
Yeah, I went over.
The total's not in trouble.
Total should not be in jeopardy. Unless
the spread is what's in jeopardy. I was sitting there thinking that, I forgot they missed that field goal. But are we just trying to get Ashton Jeanty the record now? What are we doing? But what kind of stands out, this was a sloppy game, I thought.
Ooh.
By both teams. There were the missed field goals, and there were a whole lot of penalties so far. There were 10 penalties for 98 yards on Penn State. There were 13 penalties for 90 yards on Boise State. Some of them were very impactful. There was the one hands to the face that brought back the touchdown that then ended up in an interception that just ended the game for all intents and purposes. And it's I'm trying to think, the refs weren't really being overly involved as much as both teams were committing the penalties, because it's I feel like the only call the refs really kind of screwed up was a pass interference that they didn't call. I think there was one defensive holding on Tyler Warren that I thought was kind of, but for the most part, it's these are two teams that I don't think played all that great. I think that there was a lot that both of these teams did wrong. I think like Danny, you mentioned the play calling. Like I had no problem with the deep shot on the 2nd and 1 that was nearly picked, because I think on 2nd and 1 you should always be aggressive. But there were like some real they were getting a little too cute with some of the deep shots when they could have really just been running the ball and probably controlled this game from start to finish. But just overall, both teams made mistakes. Penn State could afford to get away with them a lot more than Boise State could.
Do you feel better about Penn State?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you do?
Because of some of the throws Drew made. Yeah. Because
the drops, like you don't feel better about the receivers, though. That's for sure.
That's fair. But like if Georgia beats Notre Dame, you know how Georgia's going to decide to play them. They're going to say beat our corners, and maybe they will, maybe they won't. But we saw Quinn Ewers dice Alabama last year when they decided to play Texas like the same way. Now Texas had Worthy and Mitchell, and Penn State does not. But I think some of those balls he threw were really good tonight. Also, I thought he moved in the pocket pretty well. I like Boise's rush plan, man. Like a couple times that they 10 is
Abdul Carter.
No.
For Boise.
The Boise back, or sorry, the Penn State back. Like
I thought Singleton.
I thought they fooled Singleton's eyes a couple times. Like there are a couple times where you can tell Aller thinks he's got the numbers to protect it, because he does, and they just confused Penn State's blocking scheme. Like I thought it was a good rush plan by Boise. That's a pretty well coached team, dude. And Cotter can coach offense too. I'm not totally out on Penn State after this.
My concern with Penn State is how bad is Abdul Carter hurt?
Yeah.
Because if Abdul Carter's impacted, like no matter whether it's Georgia or Notre Dame that they play in the next round, like their pass rush was pretty much gone once Carter left the game. Like unless they were bringing extra rushers or the snaps skidded on the ground before Maddox Madsen could pick it up, they really weren't getting a ton of pressure in the second half once Carter left the game. So I think that's a very big thing to monitor going on.
I mean, 100%. I mean, so we had the Riley Mills injury coming out of that Notre Dame Indiana game. We've had a couple other like nicks that we're like trying to monitor. We've gotten good results from both of them, but for the most part, I would think that Abdul Carter, legitimately one of the best defensive players in the entire country, if he is not available for the semifinals, that is a massive loss. And a good point there. I'm a little bit. Well, go ahead.
Well, I thought 15 for Penn State. Vanover, he had a couple decent moments, but we also kind of need to think like how much were they trying to rush the passer, which I think on a lot of downs they were not. But on some of those third downs, you're right. They did not have a lot.
Well, there was a difference, like when Madsen's running for his life versus when he actually has some time and they're able to let some stuff develop along the way. We're going to do the whole like finger pointing and like, why didn't they just continue to mash them? I do think that I come out of this looking at Penn State and being like, okay, well, if you have to play Notre Dame, if you have to play Georgia in either situation, you're going to have a good chance to be able to go out there and run the football with the way that this offense played so far. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Game over, interception.
Yep. So I guess congratulations to the traders. You've won a lock war.
That's fine. I still went 2-1 in the game.
I mean, Abdul Carter looks mostly healthy as he's celebrating.
Yeah, but if it looked like a shoulder injury of some type, so you can't really be sure. Like that thing might have come out and they might have put it back in. You know what I mean? Like they were wrapping it up. I don't know for sure what the injury is, but the fact that he didn't come back into the game, I don't think is a good sign, because you could sit there and be like, well, maybe if they were playing a better team, they'd have brought him in. They're playing in the freaking quarterfinals of the playoff, and it was a one-score game. They weren't going to sit him the rest of the day unless, it was something that is serious, at least serious enough for this game.
Okay. Game has gone final 31-14. Congratulations to Penn State. We good?
I'm just moving around a little bit. There's a situation going on here. People want to hang out by the bar, and I was in the bar, so we're just moving. We're on the move. It's all good. I'm still here. Let's just hope they don't want to come climb the rock wall, because then I'm going to have to move again.
Listen, we're just so happy that DK is jumping in for an
Let's
instant
just
reaction.
hope they don't want to come climbing the rock wall. We'll be fine.
All right. Coming up on the other side, more on the Penn State Boise State result and some interesting games earlier in the day on December 31st and more next. Back here on the Cover 3 podcast where the confetti is falling out in Glendale, Arizona. We got some celebration as Penn State will be advancing to the Orange Bowl semifinals. They will play the winner of Notre Dame and Georgia after being 31-14 winners. Any other takeaways from this game before we continue to work through the rest of what gave us a lot more fodder than I think we might have otherwise thought?
Listen, you had 3 interceptions, which skews the box score, but 2 of them, were late in the game trying to make things happen coming from behind. But Maddox Madsen, for the most part, played well. Finished with over 300 yards. Obviously, the game plan by Penn State was to take away Ashton Jeanty, and even though Jeanty finished with over 100 yards, he needed 30 carries to get there. It was mostly effective. He had the 126-yard run that came on the 3rd and 21, which, surprise, surprise, was also the only time Penn State didn't load the box because you can't really load the box on 3rd and 21. But for his part, Madsen, like 23 of 35, 204, he was quick with the decisions. He was making accurate throws. Like, he had a very good game. It's just they didn't have enough in the long run to beat this team.
Bud hit on something. I thought Dirk Cutter had a really good game plan. The big touchdown coming out of halftime, the little tight end drag wheel route was a phenomenal. I mean, you could tell him he's wide open, as about as open as you get. So I thought, again, I thought Penn State was the better team. I thought Boise State played pretty hard. They had some good game plan. I thought they emptied the tank, but only it was just too much. Somebody in the chat said, "Who's the idiot who seeded these teams?" Just go back and listen to any of the podcasts we've done over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, watch us on CBS Sports Network for the whole A-block.
Yes, if you're just joining us now on New Year's Eve, welcome to the party. But go back and listen to a couple of the other ones where we have addressed that.
Yeah, because Penn State should not have been playing as the 6th seed in this tournament because they were ranked inside the top 4 of the final rankings. Yeah, that'll be something that will be discussed as the power brokers continue to gather.
Are we the power brokers?
I wish.
Jeanty did have. Ooh, maybe we are. To me, Jeanty had that hold your breath energy about him every single time he had the ball. Even on these 4-yard runs, shit. This guy, he's good because you saw the Oregon tape and you saw what he did in Mountain West competition. Nobody does that to any D1 schedule. But Penn State's fast as hell, and he still made him look like really bad tacklers consistently. I was impressed.
Yeah, I tweeted the stat and I made sure to put the disclaimer on it. This is not an Ashton Jeanty tweet. But Boise State on the season, and I talked about it on HQ earlier today with Chip, they faced one defense all year that ranked in the top 50 in success rate against the run. It was UNLV. They played them twice. Oregon was 57th. Wyoming was 72nd. And then pretty much everybody else was in the bottom 35 nationally. Penn State ranked 9th. And Jeanty still got over 100 yards on him. And it was more the offensive line who just wasn't able to win the battles the same way they were able to do so against Mountain West teams. But the other I also mentioned, you can talk about Boise's strength of schedule and Jeanty's numbers, but a lot of running backs, hundreds upon hundreds of running backs have played schedules of a similar strength, and none of them did what Ashton Jeanty did against it.
Sure. I mean, you adjust everything even to the median, and he was the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year last year. This is not a single season glitch. He's a uniquely gifted running back whose college career should be celebrated and will be celebrated. So I think that, Bud, I like the way that you say you could tell that Penn State was concerned about this, and it provided a lot of those opportunities. Also on the play that led to the tight end leaking out, our colleague Richard Johnson had texted. So Ohio State did something in the same family for, I think, one, if not two huge plays in its win against Penn State, which I'm not trying to gift anything to Marcus Freeman or Kirby Smart that they're not already going to root out, but clearly Dirk Cutter saw something in that Ohio State game against Penn State where they saw an opportunity to be able to get that little leak out when you're so concerned about the run game. It was good. They pulled out all the stops. They were able to get all the answers. So we will get to Michigan, Alabama. But first, I think we need to address the man who has the best celebration today, the Citrus Bowl champion. Tom, how are we feeling?
I feel pretty damn good, Chip. Illinois won 10 games for the first time since 2001, which coincidentally, at the time, there was a young Tom Fornelli roaming the streets of Champaign, terrorizing Green Street, drinking a lot of beer, and then finally ending up in New Orleans for the Sugar Bowl that year, which had a very different ending than what we had today in the Citrus Bowl against South Carolina. And I loved the win. I loved how mad Brett made Shane Beamer.
That was awesome.
Oh my God. I tried to get this like as fast as I could. Like, dude, Beamer charged out there from like a long, like, I don't think anybody has the video of him charging from he came like from the back of the pack, like out to the front. I got him being held back, but that was.
I wish they would have let him go.
Oh,
please
do. Like, okay, can we? Bielema bodies him, right?
Oh,
yes.
300 pounds. He played line at Iowa. Like Shane is getting splatted.
But it was just a really fun game. And then there was the quote from Luke Altmaier after the game that he said they were out at like one of the team events, and South Carolina disrespected them by calling them Syracuse. And then he said, "But that's fine. We gave him that Big Ten belt." I mean, come on, man. But yeah, not a great day for the SEC overall.
Which is a great note, I think, to maybe bring in some friends. Do we have some friends?
What?
Oh yeah.
What?
Oh,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What's up,
Oh
boys?
boy. It's about to get lit.
Happy New Year's Eve, team.
Happy New Year's Eve.
Happy
This was very
New
last
Year.
minute. We were not prepared, but we're here, and that's just what we do. We just show up when requested. So here we are.
Unlike the SEC, right?
Listen,
Kenzie.
if you want to talk bad on Bama, I will not be offended any day of the week. We can both play that game together. Okay.
Kenz, how terrified are you of tomorrow after what you saw today? After seeing all these Midwestern beefy boys whoop up on you Southeast kids, what do you think's going to happen tomorrow?
And do you own a golden retriever just in case?
Yeah, no, those are my exact thoughts. I was like, oh no, the Midwest is coming to town.
They're coming to town, boys. Like, can we be honest though? Like, we honestly are. We're literally at. There's probably 50 people here. Probably 50 people at this house party, and like some of the TVs, honestly, like I have a complaint. I'm gonna write a review because
Jordan was signing into her own YouTube TV.
I was like, what's going on? The game's not on. What are we doing? Like, the private chefs aren't around a corner, but like the TV's not on. Like, what are we doing here? So, Danny, what are you showing us? What's going on here?
It's Brady. Brady wanted to say
Brady climbing a rock wall.
Stop. Oh, just Brady on the climbing house. Like, what?
Brady,
By the way, oh my God.
Down goes Brady.
I love that line. I told Danny yesterday he was letting us know his family trip is going amazing. I said, you know what? I just want to come back in my second life as Brady Kanell. That's what I want to do because living the absolute dream. But guys, nobody's been watching. Go ahead.
I just have two things to say.
Two things
that I wanted to get off my chest here. First being I had Harrison Wallace over 41.5 receiving yards. And that was sickening because he indeed had 3 receptions for, I believe, like 37 yards.
That's upsetting.
He hasn't gone under 41.5 yards all season. I think it's been 10 games. So that was pretty criminal.
Yeah.
Did have Penn State to cover, so love that. Almost sweat that at the end of the game. I'm really rooting for a Georgia-Penn State Orange Bowl.
Do you guys think we're going to get it or what?
No, I got Notre Dame winning.
I've got Georgia winning.
Ooh.
Let's go, Chip.
Let's go, Chip. That's why we love you, Chip. Tom.
No. Don't know. This
I
is
can go to hell.
is-
What's going on? What?
No. I'm just telling you that when I heard Kirby Smart, so literally Kirby Smart at the not post game, at the pregame press conference, he goes, "The players, they play better with Gunner," and I was like, "Damn, he said it. He said it out loud."
Harder.
He said they play harder. Yeah,
Played harder.
At Bud, what are your thoughts? Because I need to hear from you. She's like, what's she doing right now?
I was kind of thinking Notre Dame, but not having Mills in there, and Georgia's pretty healthy on the O line. I'm kind of leaning a little more Georgia now.
I love that. That's good. That's good.
Midwestern beef is coming.
We were invited to this, which is kind of shocking, to be honest with you. We kind of are busy. We have plans. People are waiting for us.
36 minutes. You got 36 minutes.
We have plans, but just curious, are we invited to the live show and all that stuff? What's the plan there?
Yeah.
On Cover 3's dime.
Let's go.
No, we don't have any time.
On Danny's dime. Danny will pay
Let's
for
worry
it.
about that later. It's like Commission Row.
You're on the list. Hey, Jordan.
Hey,
Jordan.
I'm coming to Dallas.
And for those who are listening at home, this is Jordan Giorgio, Mackenzie Brooks, friends of the show. We just Cover 3 family at this point. I've got both y'all on the list. You get 2 Tannehills, I've got you in.
What's happening?
I love this. Princess, my Delray Queen. I just love that. I love it. Sign us up. We're there.
All right, kids. We'll
All
see
right,
you in
cool.
Dallas.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year.
See y'all.
Happy New Year.
All right.
Unreal. What a show.
They're gonna go crash at your house, Danny.
Yeah,
I said the door's open. They're more than welcome.
No,
I'm
just
moving in, Danny,
outdoor furniture. Just
sleeping on the patio.
Let's go sleep on the patio. All right, now it's Alabama time.
Oh.
That's a hard pivot. So, does Kalen DeBoer have a real problem or a medium problem?
Define
Are you talking
problem.
is Milrose too good to get rid of, but also has a couple of these games a year type problem?
No, Kalen DeBoer in general, having snapped a 16-year streak of double-digit wins, of Kalen DeBoer individually having found a spot where you are losing games as a double-digit favorite that did not happen throughout the entire Nick Saban tenure. That Kalen DeBoer individually is very quickly losing all of the confidence of people that do and don't matter within the Alabama fan base.
I mean, this is kind of what we talked about when he first got hired. You're replacing Nick Saban. The level of success that Nick Saban built at Alabama is not something that you can just maintain. So when you are Alabama, Kalen DeBoer comes in. Kalen is a good coach. He's won everywhere he's gone. But to expect the team to be what it has been, especially when it had already kind of started dipping in the last couple of years to begin with, because let's not forget, Alabama lost to Michigan last year too. It was a much better version of Michigan, but Alabama was a much better version of Alabama. So I just think that this is something Alabama fans kind of have to accept. You're still going to be very good. You're still going to be competing for a playoff spot every year, but you aren't going to be the team you're used to being. You're not going to be there guaranteed. And that's why with me, DeBoer took the job, but I always said, you don't want to be the guy following the guy.
I think DeBoer did a better job this year than Nick Saban would have done.
I could see that for sure.
I think Saban quit the sport because this is the one big change in the sport that he was not ready for. He was always ahead of changes or quickly saw them, adapted quickly. This is the one he botched, man, because they did not get their NIL program going at all in the way that a lot of their SEC powers did. They were way behind in it. I think it affected their culture because those players know that other guys were making more. Kids were going to stop taking the Saban discount. I think that DeBoer is a better coach for Bama right now than Nick Saban would be today. Not saying Nick Saban the last 20 years, but I mean, the sport, the talent is all evened out a whole lot. Everybody has crazy bad losses this year.
That's
welcome to normal, Bama.
That's the big difference too, that I don't think they're talking about the culture of the player and the player's mindset and how, it's different. Saban had an edge throughout the majority of his career, except for the last few years when NIL did level some of the playing field. And I think he saw that. I think that's why that was one of the reasons he got out, was saying, you know what, now's a good time. I have an opportunity to go do media. I can get out of this, because you have an edge every time you're on the field. You have a significantly better roster than the teams you're facing. That edge has been diminished somewhat. They still have a lot of good players, and they still have more talent than most of the teams they play against, but it's not as big of a gap as it was for most of the Saban tenure.
So does DeBoer have to purge the roster? Because they went up against the second string Michigan defense today and got 13 points. Like, we didn't care about it. Like, look, you throw out whatever you want, but I'm just saying, so many NFL players were not in this game, and Alabama had 13 points.
If you think anybody have like a super cut of like the Bama players, like public Snapchat stories this week, or like even Bama's practice footage, do we think that looked any good at all? There's no way that like they took this thing. I'm not going to like take the credit for Michigan, but like South Carolina played hard and like took that thing seriously all week. I talked to people who work for the bowl, like South Carolina.
But I'm saying, I think that's a problem for Alabama.
I don't think Bama was.
That's a problem for.
But do you think?
Ford.
Yeah, do you think Alabama has that approach this week if Nick Saban's still the coach?
I don't think that they give a shit about this game regardless. You missed the playoff for the first time in like how many years? Saban, DeBoer. I think it's probably.
So that's why I'm asking. Do you have to purge the roster? Like, what's the path out from this?
I mean, do we think Milroe's going to turn pro, or is he going to transfer?
Milroe ain't the answer. I mean, this is deeper than just one player. I mean, maybe
he is. Like if he learns to read a defense a little bit more, like he's still.
I don't think they're good enough at a lot of positions right now.
I think that's fair. Who do you go get though?
That's
still a team that beat Georgia.
Notre Dame's going to need a quarterback.
Like
yours are going to be Milroe.
That was my response. I said today only highlighted how far the product that we have as the whole. I mean, a very smart man named Bud Elliott always says, you give us 12 versions of a team every year, and sometimes 13. But the Georgia game, and especially that first quarter for the Georgia game, is the anomaly. Like, if you were to take offensive, defensive, everything, into consideration, break it all down for the Alabama Crimson Tide in the 2024 season, the way they started against Georgia is the anomaly from the way they played the rest of the year. And that the team that showed up today was closer to the one that only scored 3 points against Oklahoma, the same one that like totally laid an egg, earlier this season against Vanderbilt, especially early in the game. They had it on their resume, and the strength of schedule was incredible. And that built all of the arguments in terms of the playoff stuff, which I want to throw to the side because I am more concerned about Alabama football dealing with the fact that the standard has slipped. And that feels very, very clear.
So to me, like, there's two takeaways from this. One, if you lose to Michigan, your fans will want to fire you. We've learned that with Ohio State, and now we're learning it with Alabama. But two, to me, you missed the playoff. You, maybe not you personally, but a whole lot of talking around you from Nick Saban and a whole lot of other people talk about how you got screwed and you should have been in there. If your response to that is to come out and not give a shit about this bowl game and look like that against a skeleton Michigan team, that tells me you've got a culture problem. That tells me your coach isn't holding you accountable. Like, if I'm on that staff, I'm not going to this game to treat it like this. I'm trying to send a message. And they didn't do it. So if they were just kind of partying and effing around all week and not giving a damn, that's more concerning to me than the performance on the field.
I mean, and great call, just to jump in on that real fast. Barrister in the tailgate mentioned, remember when they missed the playoff and then Bryce Young played and they blew Kansas State out of the water?
And Will Anderson Jr. played too.
That was 2 full seasons ago. If they got snubbed last year, do you think they would give a damn?
I can't play that game because that didn't happen.
But they won the SEC last year. They weren't going to get snubbed. Florida State had to get snubbed, and Florida State did what Alabama did.
But I'm just saying.
And I gave them the same crap.
Well, so Bama's guys actually played.
True. But they showed up. They wore the uniforms.
Somebody asked in the chat, and I need to know because I'm blocked, so I don't know what the take has been. But is Herbstreit really like trying to say that he never said Bama should have been in, or?
Oh yeah, you got community noted hard. You saw that?
I did not see that.
Yeah,
Bro,
he
I did not expect like my most liked tweet of 2024 to be theoretical Bama is slightly different than actual Alabama, but it went like wildfire today.
Yeah, he
That
called
is
somebody a
amazing.
clown for saying that it's just bringing it up, and he's like something about keep spreading that narrative, clown. It's like, Kurt, if you weren't talking about Alabama, who were you talking about?
South Carolina. But exactly.
I mean, we listen, and this only leads to what happens for Ole Miss.
Oh my gosh.
Lane is going to put up 1,000 if he can, because Lane would love that.
And they probably will, but
Mhm.
if they don't, and Jackson Dart plays, and they've got, I think pretty much everybody's playing. That's not a great look.
Any other thoughts from the day that was?
If Sellers learns to like read a defense better, South Carolina's gonna be really good with him.
That sounds like something that can be developed.
Yeah, in the
but
first
it doesn't
Getting
always.
taller or bigger,
I was saying very similar things about Kyron Drones at this time last year.
That's fair. Ooh, that's kind of a good.
Doesn't mean he can't. I'm just saying we can't guarantee. I mean, he is only a freshman, and I was talking to my wife about it while we were watching the game because she was watching Jalen Milroe, and then we're watching Lenora Sellers, and I says, Sellers to me has shown more development in this season as a freshman than Milroe has in the last 2 years.
Like I don't know what the TV copy showed, like with how tight they keep it, but like from the stands was like all these checkdowns he's taking late are because he's not seeing open guys. Like there were some open guys against Illinois secondary. I thought Illinois played a hell of a game, but like part of that too is just he didn't see the stuff they were kind of giving him, and so he's taking like a late check down for 3 in the first half, especially. It's just, and Illinois is like, yeah, cool, perfect. Like that's not even the right. That's like the late bad read here. So, Devon Williams, pretty nice QB play for Washington today.
Yeah, I'll be. I didn't see much of that second half because once the Illini game started, I was kind of locked in. But I heard that was pretty zany at the end.
I didn't see him storm back. I kind of thought that Louisville had it put away, and it pivoted my attention elsewhere. Hey, Danny, we're back.
We're back, baby. ACC is back. I'm thinking about breaking the ban, like the opting out. I'm opting back in. It's coming back. Decided I got to do what's best for the team.
Go take your shirt off and start thinking some more.
I might have to.
I do all my best thinking topless.
I was doing a like galaxy brain take to uncork on you, where it would be like the addition of Louisville and Syracuse was meant to save the Atlantic Coast Conference.
That's right.
Because when the conference was at its worst, this is when John Swofford knew he needed that ace in the hole, that one thing that could save the league, and it was Louisville and Syracuse. When everybody else is falling apart. Yeah. I did not see I thought that the Cards had it. Congrats to Jeff Brom. That is a big win. Like, look, they got pants last year in the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah.
That was your year one bowl after being runner up in the ACC. You didn't like that. I thought they brought the issue to Washington early. The Huskies hit a bunch of explosive plays that I did see before the final, and I was like, oh goodness, it was a little bit closer down near the end. I was mostly watching South Carolina, Illinois, the Alabama, Michigan, and elsewhere. One last thought on Michigan. Totally parroting my Cover 3 co-host right here, Tom Fornelli. That team had a lot of players gone, and a lot of young players played well.
Mm-hmm. The defense will be fine next year.
And all of the Wink Martindale criticism is not done, but that was you had enough time to coach up young players to try to stop a dynamic quarterback like Jalen Milroe. You did a good job against him. That is a good sign for coaching. That is a good sign for young talent. That is a good sign for Michigan. New offense, the Bryce Underwood era.
We'll see.
We'll see. All those things are going to have to be a very much work in progress, but definitely I thought that for Michigan, if you're a fan, in addition to how sweet it is to beat Alabama and Ohio State in back-to-back years. I mean, how sick is that? Who in America could say, as a fan, we beat Alabama and Ohio State in 2 straight seasons?
True.
Doesn't happen a lot.
Doesn't happen a lot. So that's got to be encouraging. We'll see how everything goes with the changes on offense. Anything else from the day that we want to hit before we get out of here?
One earnest thought.
Yeah.
I know I was goofing around earlier talking about it, but thank you to Brett Bielema. Thank you to Illinois Athletic Director Josh Whitman for proving that Illinois football doesn't just have to be a team trying to win 6 games to distract us until basketball season starts, and that it's capable of more if you actually put effort and money into it. I appreciate it a lot.
Prayers up to Whit Weeks, man. That guy.
Oh, nasty hit.
He plays hard, and that was just. I mean, I hope that's like not something that you say like you hope that's not something that affects him this coming season. Like I really hope that's not something that affects his career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
That sucked. Did we get an update on Reed for Penn State? Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Like, did he come back in the game?
I got to join the New Year's party. We're going bowling.
Florida, unlike Florida State, Danny's going bowling.
Oh man! We got to get the party started.
Oh, now look, the room I started in is empty. Altitude here is hard to breathe.
I think that people are just happy that we get you in Mountain Time Zone. We get you. So
yes,
yeah, it's a great trip.
Back where we started. All right,
DK, you rolling?
I'm out.
All right.
Happy New Year, Danny.
Enjoy the game. Happy New Year.
The chat thinks that Reed came back in.
Did he? All
right. Penn State, Georgia, or Notre Dame. Who do they want to see?
I mean, neither. You're hoping that they suffer 15 injuries, whoever comes through.
I mean, the answer really, I think, is how effective is Stockton?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd rather if you're to ask James Franklin right now, I would like that Georgia wins the game 13-12 and Stockton does not look capable at all, and then we can hopefully get Carter as healthy as possible, send our defense out there to dominate,
and you get 5 quarters of film on him. Yeah.
I think that's the answer. I'm very, very interested to see to see how Penn State responds, and it's gotten SMU, it's gotten Boise State, and now you're going to show up to the Orange Bowl, and a lot of Penn State fans. There were some reports from the stadium. It's kind of Boise dominated. I heard anecdotally a lot of Penn State fans that, you go to the home game, you wait to see if they win, then you're going to go to the Orange Bowl. I think Penn State fans will show up more for this next round. But again, to back up something that we have said on multiple platforms, asking fans to buy all these tickets and plane trips is too much.
Home games.
Put this stuff on campus so we know, the students can go, the people who live around there can go. I know that, look, not everybody is Notre Dame with alum all over the country. Like your average college football program, the alum have a higher percentage within driving distance. So it's tough. But we'll see.
Do you guys want a fun fact that shifts narratives?
Obviously. It
could change tomorrow, but as of right now, James Franklin has as many playoff wins as Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh.
Get that into my vein. That's so good.
Jeez, just saying. Really makes you think.
So James Franklin has 2 college football playoff wins.
Mm-hmm. Ryan Day has 2. Jim Harbaugh has 2.
I mean, and we're sitting here arguing over the rushing record.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's what I'm saying. Big game James.
Let's go. All right. We will be back at the conclusion of that Sugar Bowl between Notre Dame and Georgia, the one that will play into the Orange Bowl against Penn State. Congratulations, winner of the Fiesta Bowl. And so come and join us live at youtube.com/cover3. And you can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow him at Bud Elliott 3. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Happy New Year, everybody.
ILL.